Hello, everyone, and welcome to part two of Increase Your Emotional Intelligence with Human Design. I'm not going to waste any time. We're going to just jump right in. Okay, so as you know, in part one, we kind of went over what emotional intelligence was, the different components. We went through the hierarchy of change to really understand what it takes. Excuse me. To really understand what it takes to make change in your life that is going to stick and that has staying power. We also went through a high level overview of each of the energy types in human design so that you can kind of understand what your energy type is, how it works, what your not self themes are, and what kind of strategy your type uses. So today, in part two, we're going to talk about non-emotional versus emotional in human design. And the way that you find this out is, again, by going and downloading your human design chart from myhumandesign.com. It's completely free. You just input all of your birth information. Make sure that you have your as accurate as possible your birth time. And then you just generate the chart, and then you can see from there your energy type, your strategy, and you will see whether you're non-emotional versus an emotional. So emotional beings in human design, they have a defined solar plexus. So what that means is when you're looking at your chart, your solar plexus is the little like sideways triangle on the, let me think where it's at. If you're looking at your chart, it's on the right hand side. So if that is colored in, it means that it's defined. If it is white, it means that it is open or undefined. And to go back a little bit, open versus closed centers and what that means. So if you have a defined solar plexus, it means that you are able to generate your own feelings and emotions. If you have an open solar plexus, if it's white on your chart, it means that you are able to be conditioned through that center, which means that you take on the outside world's emotions, feelings, whatever is going on with other people, with the environment or the world around you, you take on those feelings and then you amplify them. So if you walk into a room with a bunch of people and maybe there's somebody in there that is an emotional person and they're at a 2 in their emotions, you coming in as a non-emotional person with that open center, you're going to feel that person's 2 at an 8. So that's extremely important. And this does not just, this does not apply only to the solar plexus with your emotions. It's any center on your chart that is open or white is where you can have the most conditioning, where you're most empathic, and when you're basically taking on influences from the outside world as your own, which we'll talk about a little bit further in this training. So emotional beings, like I said, you guys have a defined solar plexus. You're able to generate your own feelings and emotions. So you can literally be sitting on the couch and start getting emotional and having all these sort of feelings out of nowhere because you are able to generate those on your own. You don't necessarily need to be around other people in order to feel things. You can just generate those emotions completely on your own. You really do have a buffer from the outside world or for the outside world. So you're not taking in any feelings or emotions other than what you're generating on your own. Non-emotionals. Actually, before we go on to non-emotionals, emotionals, there are 4 different types of emotional waves that you should be aware of. So the subtle wave, this is the hardest wave because you don't really feel like you're an emotional person. You kind of feel like, well, I feel like I'm always cool, calm, and collected, but your emotions are very, very subtle. So this can look like 1 minute feeling like you want to be surrounded by a bunch of people and you're really happy and life is great. And then other times you wanting to be alone and not wanting to be around anyone. It's that subtle. So you just have to kind of get into the groove of like understanding those subtleties in your emotions, and obviously don't judge them or anything like that. It's just how you're designed. Then the second type of emotional wave is the buildup. So the buildup is when you have a lot of emotions that you hold inside, and then they continue to build and build and build until one day you just completely explode. Um, sorry. So, with anyone that has a buildup emotional wave, it's super important for you to notice your patterns. Because you could be the type of person that, for let's say 3 weeks, you feel all of these different emotions, but you don't say anything. You just keep holding it inside. You're like, whatever, it's going to get better. And then the next time that it comes up, you keep stuffing it and stuffing it and stuffing it. And then maybe like your pattern is that within those 3 weeks, your buildup finally comes to a head. And then at week 4 is when you explode, you cry, you rage out, you whatever it is, you let it all out. So for you, it is super important to really notice those patterns. That way you can kind of gauge like when you're about to explode, and you can manage that a little bit better. The third emotional wave is spontaneous high and lows. So your emotions literally come out of nowhere with no indication. And so you could be sitting there perfectly fine 1 second and like being super excited, and then all of a sudden you just get like a low. You just come down from whatever high you're on. But it doesn't last too long, because you can feel what you're feeling and then be totally fine in like 5 minutes. So it's best to be aware and understand that you're like this, and that in a few minutes, you're going to probably go back to your neutral state. I am so sorry. My throat is killing me. Okay, and then the fourth and final emotional wave is the escalator. This is where you kind of like, it's not like the buildup, where in the buildup you feel an emotion, you stuff it down, feel another emotion, you stuff it down, and then you feel it again and you stuff it, and then you explode. With the escalator, this is basically like you start off happy, and then you just get happier and happier and happier and happier, and then you reach the end and you just take a dip. You're like, where did that come from? I was on this awesome trajectory. Life is great. Life is good. Everything is awesome. And then boom, you fall. So it's totally different from the build up, in that you feel really good for a long time, and then you suddenly take that dip. Okay, so that is part of being an emotional being. Okay, and then so for my non-emotionals, you guys, like I said, have an undefined solar plexus. So if you look at your chart and your solar plexus is white, has no color, it means that you're a non-emotional. So that means that you're open to external feelings, emotions, and you amplify those feelings and emotions of whoever you're around, whatever environment you're in, whatever situation you're put in, you're taking that on and then you're amplifying it. Non-emotionals are typically called too emotional when their natural state is to be cool, calm, and collected. So I'm a non-emotional. And I grew up my entire life thinking that I was this super emotional, angry person. And I used to call it like, I'm just super a passionate person, right? Super emotional, super passionate. Then I discovered human design, and I found out that I was a non-emotional, and everything in my life just like made perfect sense. It made perfect sense, because when I am by myself, I am so chill and so calm. Literally nothing can get me riled up. The second that I get around other people and I feel what they're feeling, I amplify it so much that I get so uncomfortable within myself that I literally feel like I'm going to explode and blow up. And that's how I lived my entire life without even knowing what was going on. I had no idea that I was so susceptible through that open center, through that open solar plexus, to take on the feelings, the emotions of everything going on around me. So can you imagine when 2020, when we were in 2020 and all of that stuff was like going on in the news with the politics and all of the stuff, I had a house full of people that were so emotionally charged that I was completely miserable, and I was lashing out at my husband, at my parents, at everybody. And I had no idea what the hell was going on with me. Then I finally said to myself, like, something's got to give. Like, I need to figure out why I'm like this, why I'm so angry. Like, why am I this person? I don't want to be this person. Well, in comes human design, and I find out that the reason why is because I never knew that I was taking on all of these different emotions, and but then amplifying it. It's one thing to feel what other people are feeling, but to magnify that, to amplify those feelings, I mean, that is the most uncomfortable state to be in. So now anytime that I am feeling out of sorts and I'm feeling anxious or emotional or whatever it is, I know now to take a step back and say, okay, clearly these are not my emotions. I have taken this on from someone or something that I was around. So then it's much easier for me to be able to say, okay, who was it that I was around? What was it that I was doing? And what caused this? So I can pinpoint it, and then I can release it later on. I can use my other tools like meditation, like breathing exercises, like EFT tapping to release all of that stuff. So this is why knowing whether you're a non-emotional versus an emotional person is so huge, especially when we're talking about emotional intelligence. Because honestly, like, if you do not know where your emotions are coming from or how you handle emotions, where they come from, why you're feeling the way that you're feeling, how the hell are you going to be able to self-regulate? How are you going to be able to bring yourself down? How are you going to understand that that is what you need? You can't. That's why, before I found human design, I would take all of these emotional intelligence courses and nothing was working. And it's because this is the stuff that they don't teach. They don't teach you how your energy flows and interacts with other people, how it flows and interacts with your environment, how you take on other people's, or maybe you don't take on other people's. Maybe you're an emotional person, so you're creating all of these emotions within yourself. But did you know that as an emotional person, what you need to do is you need to ride your wave and then wait until your wave has completely gone and you're back into your neutral state, so that then you can make decisions, so that then you have the tough conversations that you need to have at work with your family. But you wouldn't know that if you didn't know that you were an emotional person and what kind of emotional wave you ride, right? This is why this is so, so, so important. Such a huge, huge part of understanding emotional intelligence and really trying to increase that. Okay. So now, human design and self-awareness. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you back through the 4 components of emotional intelligence, which were self-awareness, self-regulation, empathy, and relationship management. And I'm going to break each one down with the human design component so that you understand it a little bit deeper. So with self-awareness, where you want to start is living in alignment with your design. So really understanding your energy type, really understanding your strategy, which is, what we talked about for a manifester, it was to inform. For the generator and the manifesting generator, it's to respond. For the projector, it's to wait for the invitation. And for the reflector, it is to wait an entire lunar cycle. Okay. And also understanding where your intuition is coming from and how it's talking to you. So once you understand your human design and whether you're emotional or non-emotional, the self-awareness component just becomes so much easier, like I explained earlier. And then Understand that to show up different, you have to be different. This is a huge part of becoming self-aware, okay? Understanding your design and choosing to live in alignment means choosing to change your identity. And sorry, means choosing to change your identity. And I am willing to bet there's a lot of deconditioning that needs to be done in order for you to truly embody and live according to your design. Because how can we expect someone to be self-aware when they literally have no idea why they feel the way that they do or where those emotions are coming from? You know, it's easy to tell someone or yourself to pause in that moment and count to 5. But if you don't have the tools to understand why you feel, think, and behave the way that you do in certain situations or around certain people, you will never become self-aware. And this goes back to the hierarchy of change, okay? You have to change your identity in order to create the change that you seek. And then my third bullet point here for self-awareness is knowing your emotional versus non-emotional self. So if you're, like I said before, if you're non-emotional, you know that anytime that you're out of your cool, calm, and collected neutral state, that you need to go within yourself and figure out who or what you've been around that's causing you to be out of your neutral zone. And once you can pinpoint from who or what you picked up that energy, you can work to release it. If you're an emotional, you need to ride your emotional wave and wait until you're in a neutral state. This may take you a day or two, but you need to give yourself the time to come back down from that emotional wave. You should never be making decisions or having serious conversations with anyone that could heighten your emotions, especially when you're still riding that emotional wave. So make sure that you are waiting until you're in that down curve before you make any big decisions and before you have any serious conversations. Okay. Now, whoops. Okay. Self-regulation and human design. So use your not self theme as indication to course correct and do the things that you love to get you out of the negativity. So your not self theme in human design, you can go back and kind of take a look at that. But it might be frustration for the manifester, for the generator and the manifesting generator. I believe it's frustration as well. For the projector, it is bitterness. And then for the reflector, it is disappointment. So your not self theme is the first indication that you are not in alignment. So take time to figure out where your energy is leaking so that you can course correct, make an action plan, and work towards buttoning up all of those leaky areas. When you're in your not self, it's so much harder to self-regulate. So you have to get to a point where you have a plan of action so that you can move forward, or so that you can move toward being productive in your self-regulation practices. And once you identify what's going on inside, or once you've come down from your emotional wave, it's time to regulate. So that's where the yoga, the walking, the journaling, and the meditation come into play. So just think to yourself or ask yourself, what is something that you truly enjoy doing that brings you back into neutrality? The self-regulation process is about removing all of those negative feelings or emotions out of your body. So once you find something that works for you, you can tap into that anytime that you're feeling like you're holding on to too much energy that's not serving you. And that's why I said before in day one that the self-regulation piece, like doing the yoga and doing the meditation, that it's all great and they're all great tools, but it's not going to work effectively if you are not able to pinpoint where your emotions are coming from and why you're feeling the way that you are. That's why this is so important. That's why human design and understanding your human design is so important. Okay, so human design and empathy. Understanding your open centers and understanding your emotional versus your non-emotional state. So we talked about this a little bit, but just to recap, when you become in tune with what it feels like to be in your neutral state, you are going to become more aware of the times that you're not in your neutral state. This happened to me. Now, anytime that I am not in that cool, calm, and collected state of mind, I know, oh my God, something's going on. I need to scan my body. I need to figure out what it is that went wrong so that I can get myself back to that cool, calm, and collected state. Because the more that the more that you become aware of that, of your neutral, the less what's the word, the less willing you are to be out of that. So you're going to work so much harder and so much faster to get yourself back into that neutral state. So that means that you're going to be more aware of the people and places around you and how your energy is interacting with others. So you're naturally going to start noticing when someone is holding a certain type of energy. You're going to start reading their body language more easily. And remember that if you're an emotional, you're still going to be able to pick up on other people's energy through any other open center that you have. So you will be empathic, not through the solar plexus, but through other energy centers. And what I mean by that is, let's say, okay, so for my son has an open and this is his only energy center that's open. He has an open spleen, and the spleen is where our fears and our insecurities and our anxieties are stored. So, and my spleen is defined. So I create a lot of my own anxieties and fears and things like that. Well, he doesn't. He takes it on from the outside world. So it may seem like it's an emotion, but it's not. You're just feeling through a different center what somebody else is putting down energy wise. So if he can feel my anxieties and my fears and magnify them and amplify them because he's open through that center. So that's what makes him so empathic. It's through his spleen instead of his solar plexus, if that makes sense. And then human design and relationship management. So understanding the design of those closest to you. That is a game changer. Understand that if they're an emotional or a non-emotional, or what other centers they have open or closed. Huge. And remember that we're all special and unique, and no one person is the same. And that is what makes our relationships that much better. So once you understand and accept all of that, relationship management and conflict resolution becomes so much easier. Human design, for me, it's helped me in my marriage in big ways. I no longer look at my husband as lazy. He's a manifester. And we all know that manifestors, they have a different type of energy where they sink their teeth into something, throw all their energy into it, and then they have to rest for a long time until that next urge or that next impulse comes about so that they can use that stored energy for that new impulse or that new urge. And I used to look at him like he was lazy. I'm like, why the hell are you tired? I'm not tired. I'm a manifesting generator. So I'm the energizer bunny. I can keep going, right? And I was like, why isn't he behaving in the same way? Like, why is he not at my level energy wise? But now I understand that his energy is different than mine and that he needs a lot more rest than I do. So now I don't nag him anymore when it comes to his rest. I know that he needs it. So I give him the space that he needs in order to rest, recharge, so that he can come back and work on that next thing that he is, passionate about. And it's a win-win situation. It's also helped me become a better parent. I'm raising my son to embrace and embody his design with as minimal conditioning as possible. I understand now the way that our energies flow together, and when I need a break to regroup, and when he needs a break from me as well. I talked about this a little bit with the empathy portion of human design and emotional intelligence. Being able to really, like, especially in your family, right? Because it's going to be easier to figure out like everybody else's design around you, especially if they're your family. At work, it's a little bit different. I'm kind of lucky because a lot of the people that I work with, they are into human design and it's very interesting to them. So I've actually read their charts. And so I know the people that I work close with, I know what their charts are, and I'm able to, or I know their energy type, so I'm able to work with them in that aspect. But it's going to be a lot easier for you to apply this stuff with people that you're closest to, which is your family. So, like I was saying before, knowing that I am open in my solar plexus and that my sun is not open, his is defined, that means that when he is going through his emotional wave, I feel it 10 times over. It overwhelms me sometimes. I start, going crazy. My anxiety rises. My heart starts beating really bad when he's throwing one of his crazy, crazy tantrums. Um, and since learning about human design, now I'm able to take a step back from him when he's having those emotions, only in times that I actually need to, when it's getting too much for me to handle, when I'm completely being overstimulated, especially with having like a rough day at work or whatever it is, and then coming home and having to deal with that sort of energy. So now what we do at home is when I'm getting overwhelmed and when I'm feeling like I'm not in my neutral, calm, cool, and collected state, my husband steps in. He helps me because he is a defined solar plexus as well. So he has a buffer to my sun. He does not take on my son's emotions and feelings like I do. So he is better equipped in certain situations to step in and let my son ride his emotional wave with him by his side, and just get through that moment in the moments where I'm not able to. So, game changer. All right. So that is the end of this training, the end of part 2. I hope you guys had an amazing time learning about human design and emotional intelligence and all of the things that I have done in my life in order to increase my emotional intelligence. And I hope you can see how you can take some of these techniques and these tools and this information and apply it into your life, because I'm telling you, it just happened organically for me, where I started to fall into this pattern of just increasing that emotional intelligence. It just happened organically. And it was all because I learned how to manage myself through my human design and through which centers of mine are open and whether I'm a non-emotional or an emotional. So it's been a huge game changer. It has changed my marriage. It's changed my parenting style. It has changed my entire life for the better. So I really hope that you feel the same way once you start implementing some of these things into your daily life. So I would so love to hear after you're done with this training, love to hear what you think. Your feedback is greatly appreciated. Please email me at hey@alignedafcoaching.com and tell me what you think. I would love to know. And if you haven't already, definitely sign up for the weekly vibe so that you're not missing any news, any new content that I put out, any offers, that I have. I also have my human design readings. So if after this training, you really want to know more about your chart and want to truly understand and go deeper in your human design journey, let me know. Reach out to me, send me an email, reach out via Instagram, and let's get you booked for a 90-minute human design reading. It's going to change your life. All right. Thank you guys so much. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.